Folks, it's almost a litmus test. It's almost an indicator, a critical indicator of somebody's intelligence at this point, how they're reacting to this ICE shooting the other day. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, welcome to the program. The What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 800-304-2000. Offices in Nevada and California, because you deserve what's right. So, we know now a few more things than we did yesterday when we were live on air. Renee Good, the poor woman that got shot by the ICE agent after she accelerated into him, at him, people debating the direction of her tires, her wheels, which direction she was turned when she slammed on the accelerator. Getting into all of these details, look, I mean, the thing is, it's absolutely unfortunate. And I loved that J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, said as much in today's fiery press conference. Now, I'll get you some of the best lines of this here in a moment. But Vance didn't pull any punches. He didn't hold back one iota. At the same time, he expressed condolences, obviously, to this lady's family. I mean, it's a death. Nobody wants death. Nobody wants destruction. We want our nation's laws enforced. And this is exactly what the left wants. And this is exactly why I'm PO'd about it. We have ICE out there. We have federal agents out there performing legitimate law enforcement function. We have people who have made it a business to aid and abet criminal aliens entering this country. We have normalized people ignoring the law. We have thumbed our noses at those among us who have immigrated into this country legally and followed the rules. We've literally spat in their face. Why did you follow the rules? Why did you pay the fees? Why did you spend years waiting for your opportunity to come to the U.S. when you could have just, with the help of an NGO, been resettled quickly, given a social security number under the Biden administration? Waved right in, handed $30,000 or more per family, given housing in four-star hotels. I mean, the list goes on and on. Why didn't every immigrant do this? Boy, were the ones that did it legally idiots? And of course, none of that gets told in the media narrative. The media, and Vance calls them out, the media, they are the irresponsibility of the media. Yeah, there's a great quote. He said, Vance says this, I think it's really irresponsible for you guys to go out there and imply or tell the American people that a guy who defended himself from being rammed by an automobile is guilty of murder. Right? I mean, that's the quote. These headlines that are out there, there's a headline, right? One of the top headlines, what was it? Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Because there are people, in fact, this poor woman was probably convinced in her mind that ICE agents were running around like stormtroopers, offing people, arresting citizens, rounding up undesirables, quote unquote, and that was how it actually was all going down. I mean, it's because what were her media sources? Yeah, I read something by her too. She sounded a little crazy, but nonetheless was influenced by this type of rhetoric, and the rhetoric is not calming itself. Certainly, they're not making any efforts to calm it. But the same rhetoric. Here's my point: the same rhetoric that is inflammatory that caused this, the same rhetoric that is now continuing. In the same vein, we have rhetoric constantly defending illegal immigration. The mood of the country going into the 2024 election was decidedly against all of these people. People didn't want, in overwhelming numbers, even among some Democrats, gasp, didn't want illegal immigration to continue getting out of hand. A majority of the country wanted deportations. And what the Democrats are trying to do is gin up all of this violence in order to provoke incidents like this. The left wanted this. They got this lady and others like her so wound up, hoping they would get themselves into a confrontation, hoping that it would prompt the officer to fire his weapon, hoping there would be an incident like this. They don't care about the woman. They don't care about their own people. They don't care about anybody other than their raw political power. So they wind these people up, send them out there into harm's way, and then go, aha, look, see? And hoping it starts to weaken the flabby middle of our country, the folks out there who were rightly appalled by what was going on under Biden, and now are going to go, well, you know, this is a problem. Now, I don't think everything I'm seeing that Trump is backing down on this in any way, shape, or form, and he ought not to. Because regardless of what happens in the midterms, there's tremendous power that the president has as the chief executive. He can enforce these laws. Now, Congress can go and pass new laws related to immigration. And that's one of the stories that gets buried in all this, that Congress hasn't done that. My entire life, we talk about illegal immigration as an issue. Congress rarely acts. And in the absence of Congress acting, a presidency can take up, you know, that ground that's been given up. It's how our constitutional system works. So the executive branch comes and says, well, you know, we'll do it our way. Now, what Biden did was so blatantly unconstitutional and illegal because Biden failed to protect even the existing minimal laws that are on the books. He just said, we're not going to do it. In fact, the Biden administration did, via its various departments and money given to the NGOs, basically went and said, look, we're going to facilitate moving people into the country. And we don't care. We're not going to do any background checks. We don't know if they're gangbangers. We don't know if they've been trained, you know, by Maduro's forces in the jungles of Venezuela. We don't care who they are. We bring them on in. We're going to diversify the country in hopes, of course, of skewing congressional districts and winning elections. It's sad. It's sick. So let's unpackage this here. Some of these moments, J.D. Vance, I know Marco Rubio's been in the news lately, and I get it, but J.D. Vance today came out looking absolutely like the front runner that he is for 2028, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Folks, we'll be back in just a moment.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Well, today's press briefing at the White House, Vice President J.D. Vance came out swinging. And I thought it was absolutely epic. The tone of it was right. He was thoughtful. He was, he was firm in pushing back against the media, frankly. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, here Monday through Friday on the What's Right Media Network for your edification and listening pleasure. Okay, here's Vance. Here's Vance pushing back on the media, calling the reporting done by the media a disgrace, That's what he calls it. He calls it a disgrace. This is how it started. Wow.
The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. And everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, this is exactly right. And it goes back to what we have seen since the beginning of Trump's term. Look at what they were doing in LA. And he got it this right, but JD Vance gets it this way. You know, he talks about the culpability of an individual because the media goes, whoa, wait a minute, she's out there protesting. That does not deserve the death penalty. What an absurd argument, just logically. Obviously, that doesn't deserve the death penalty. Obviously, that's not the argument that we're making when we're saying this is likely a justified shooting. We see the tape. We see what happened. What are we saying? Look, the reason this woman is there, the reason that any of these people are there, the way we saw in LA, we know that these antagonisms, I'll say this at the very least, but they're actually intentional disruptions of ICE activity occur is because there are groups organizing it. And the groups that are organizing it, frankly, they're deliberately trying to stop or slow Trump's immigration agenda. By the way, Vance actually got at this idea of the woman did nothing wrong and it was an innocent bystander. This is what he said.
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life, and that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. I'm sorry, guys. What's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, it is what it is, right? And he pushed back even more at this point. By the way, you know that the ICE agents, a big story today, maybe one of the biggest in light of everything that's been going on. The ICE agent who opened fire on this woman, that he had been previously dragged 100 yards by an illegal immigrant in Minnesota. This was in June, when his arm got trapped inside the vehicle during a traffic stop. Yeah, I saw this and I thought, of course, well, this explains why, if you're, he's not taking any chances. He had a near-death experience already by somebody who was trying to get away or drive their car at him. The officer has not been named in media. I'm not going to, until we have an official word on this, but it happened June 17th, Bloomington, Minnesota. A guy named Roberto Carlos Munoz, Guatemala. Munoz, Guatemala is hyphenated, in case you're wondering. He's a serial illegal immigrant. Had a lengthy rap sheet. This is a good guy, right? It's probably, what is it? He was a Minnesota man. Roberto Carlos Munoz, Guatemala. Minnesota man. His charges included domestic assault. Great. He's a wife beater. Also, sex crimes against an underage teenager. Folks, this is who the Democrats are defending, right? I mean, they are out there. This poor lady gave her life defending people like Mr. Munoz, Guatemala, from being deported out of the country. Every day that goes by, Robbie, I'm more and more convinced that this new form of liberalism out there, that is not in the heads of all Democrats, right? But that some have, is really, truly a mental illness. Making this your cause? I mean, it's the same thing, right? They're also making their cause with whom? They're making their cause with Hamas. I mean, if somebody had come to me 15 years ago, hell, 5 years ago even, 5 years ago, maybe not 5 years ago. I saw some of the craziness from, I'm going back 10 years ago, before Trump 1.0, and said to me, Sam, someday the Democrat Party is going to have people in it that are going to support Hamas and be willing to lay their lives down so criminal child sex offenders who are in the country illegally are allowed to stay. And if somebody told me that, I would have told them to get the hell out of here and to have their heads examined. Actually, we're the new normal. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to my program, and I'm not this is common sense. I've always said this is common sense conservatism. Do we want, look, I'm a father of 3 kids. I have 2 daughters. My youngest is going to be a teenager this year, 13. Lucky me. Next month, as a matter of fact. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I'm going to, a month from now, have 2 teenage daughters. So, when it comes to child molesters, just a little side note, I think I would deport them even if they're citizens. I'd deport them to a little island where, the ghost of Dick Cheney can go hunt them. All right? I'd be fine with that. And I'm just being honest with you. Yeah, you hurt kids, you're done. Now, is there any universe where you go, oh, you know what? Maybe we should leave these people in our country? Like, Trump told us that he was going to go after the worst of the worst. And every time there's some incident with some illegal, on some video, and everybody gets outraged, and then we find out about the guy's rap sheet. And the guy's always a bad dude. They haven't really found very many stories to tug at our heartstrings about the hardworking, card-carrying union member. I mean, they tried that with of course, the other guy, Abrego Garcia, Mr. Maryland Man, or whatever the hell he was. No, he was a union guy. He was a card-carrying labor guy, working a job, whatever. And the more you pulled at that, thread, that yarn, the whole thing started coming undone. The narrative. So I'm telling you. And by the way, we almost had that felon rip an agent of the United States government's arm off, almost kill him. And now this woman does this, and I'm not surprised at all that he's fine, that he fired on her at all. By the way, do you want me to analyze it again now that we have more information? I'll put my lawyer hat after this, dispassionately analyze the video, and tell you what I think of it as far as from a legal perspective. All right, be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Friends, a word about Sam and Ash injury law. If you've been hurt, if you've been in an accident, could be a simple rear ender or something far more complicated, don't go at it alone. I always tell you this. It's sound advice. The last thing you want is to go up against an insurance company that has investigators, has adjusters, and even lawyers figuring things out and working around the clock to screw you over. Trust me, I know. I do this stuff every day, and I'm always surprised. I'll get a call. I'll get a call maybe from one of you, and you'll start telling me about what happened, and I'll listen to it, and I know where it's headed. Sam, I did everything right. I went to them. I gave them all the information. I didn't want an arm and a leg. I just wanted them to pay for my truck and cover, my one doctor bill that I had. And that's it. That's all I wanted. And they didn't even pay my rental car. They didn't even pay. I'm upside down on my truck now. It's worth less than it was. They're not covering me on that. I'm out of pocket, $3,500. This is the kind of stuff that I hear. Don't get taken, all right? You got to find a lawyer. I understand a lot of lawyers out there can give you the ick. Sam and Ash Injury Law is not one of those firms. I promise you that, because I am Sam from Sam and Ash. I can vouch for my firm, and I'll tell you, we'll take good care of you, and particularly if you're a listener of this program. Always, when you call in, let Ian, let Michael, let Oscar know that you were sent by me. All right. Or email me directly, sam@whatsrightshow.com. That easy. Sam and Ash Injury Law, 1-800-304-2000. samandashlaw.com is the website, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks. I just talk about this if I'm already on the law topic about this shooting. A lot of you have reached out, and I haven't responded to every email. A lot of you reached out about if it's a clean shooting. I think that's how they describe it. Clean shooting, meaning is there liability here on the officer? One thing you have to remember is there's a number of cases over the years that have gone, some even up to the Supreme Court, on the use of force, but whether it's an officer or not, deadly force is authorized. The standard is there has to be a reasonable belief of an imminent danger or death or serious injury to either the officer, to the individual, or to other officers. Now, one thing I want you to do, and feel free to do this just independently, because I always, it could be, right? It could be that the officer, we like that he's out there enforcing immigration law. We like that he's taking a high-risk job, but it could be a bad shooting. It happens, right? And there could be legal liability. We obviously don't want police to just go around and shoot people. So you look at it, and I urge you, don't do what the left does, where you just react to things emotionally. Use your intuition and your knowledge. So when you look at the video, you see there are multiple officers. Now, the one that shoots, and I mentioned this just before the break, is that he had a previous incident back in June where he was arresting a criminal illegal alien who happened to be a kid diddler and a wife beater. So a real nice guy, right? Quality guy, the kind of immigrants we want in this country. Not. Anyway, the guy drags him 100 yards, and he really got seriously injured, ended up in the hospital. The agent did. So flash forward to the day before yesterday, and this shooting happens, and And it's, and he reacts. Now, reasonableness, okay? Imminent danger of death or serious injury. Oh, she's not going to hit him and kill him. Clipping him and dragging him, especially when this agent already knows how serious that can be, is going to meet that reasonableness standards. Now, that's my opinion. Again, I'm looking at it. And I've had clients come to me, by the way, at the firm, and I've handled some horrible police shooting cases. There's not many of them, not nearly as many as the media would have you believe. There are some bad cops. There are some bullies that wear a badge and do bad things. Vast majority of law enforcement. My best friend is a police officer in Beverly Hills. He's one of the best human beings I know. All right. So runs the gamut. Vast majority of police, great people. And we understand that as conservatives and patriots, right? Some bad ones. So I've reviewed these cases and this is the difference in personal injury law firms, right? Some, somebody brings them a case and they go, something happened to me. And I look at it and I'm like, sir, there's not a case there. I'm not going to bring an illegitimate case. It's not the kind of lawyer that I am. I care about my reputation. I have a very good reputation. I have the kind of reputation when I bring a case, people listen. By a side note, I think I mentioned this on air. There was a lady the other last year, that I met a week. She called in and she was a Czech speaker, right? From my parents' country. And so we spoke Czech about her case, and she happened to be at fault in her accident, according to the police. But we listened to her, and I listened to her, and the team did. And it seemed that she was telling the truth about what happened and that maybe the officer had cut some corners. Anyway, big news this week, Robbie. I didn't follow up with you on this. We actually got that liability turned around for her. And now the defendant, his insurance company, their car's driver, his insurance company, they're accepting fault. And it's because of our reputation, right? Because we don't bring frivolous claims. So back to the police shooting thing, I've seen a lot of these videos, and a lot of the times I have to say to the client or the family, if there's a death, I go, look, I'm sorry, but there's nothing here. I'm looking at this case. I'm telling you, I wouldn't take the wrongful death claim here. But it's something to think about, because this is what's going to happen. I promise you this is what's going to happen. Minnesota could file state charges against they'll want to do it. They're going to want to Derek Chauvin him, right? They're going to want to do that. Will he get convicted in federal? Well, the feds are not going to bring the case. It would have to be state prosecutors that bring it. Would the ICE agent get convicted? I don't know, right? It's Minnesota. Depends on who's on the jury. If it's a bunch of people that own highly and somewhat suspiciously profitable child learning facilities, then I think, you might have he might be SOL. The other thing to remember, though, their family's going to bring a wrongful death suit no matter what. And the standard of proof is lower. And in a politically charged environment, they're going to want to stick it to Trump, and that's going to be a state case. So I could see this being a situation where the criminal charges either don't get filed or the officer beats them, but then there's a civil verdict reached, an award reached, and it'll be appealed. It's going to take years. And of course they'll say, well, he was found responsible for the death. Yeah, it's a civil case. Yeah, and some POS lawyer, and I say this about people that do what I do, some POS lawyer is going to bring this case. Trust me. Vampires, a lot of them. That's what I think. All right. And I've looked at the video. There's all these different videos because this whole thing was getting filmed. And we haven't yet seen the point of view. We haven't seen the body cam, but presumably there's some body cam coverage here too, and dash cam video from the police officer's car. Oh, here's a stupid take I heard today. Somebody, this is a new talking point, and so it's out there and it's all over the internet. And you've got these people saying, he's not a police officer. He's ICE. Robbie, does somebody want to tell him? It's federal law enforcement. The ICE agents are federal law enforcement. I mean, as from a legal perspective, they have more authority than a Minnesota police officer, right? Because they're able to enforce federal law. They can go anywhere in the country. Their jurisdiction is nationwide. But as far as their ability to protect themselves, no different than any other officer, and the standards, some of the standards actually very similar to, if not more enhanced than what ordinary citizens have. So this is where we're at. It was just absolute stupidity. That's what I loved about Vance's press conference. This today's press conference. If you're just joining us, today's press conference was absolutely the best. Vance came out the clear front runner today. The clear front runner to succeed Donaldus Maximus, 2028, the anointed successor. And I'm just telling you, he was firm. He was clear as presidential. He rapid fired, spoke extemporaneously, fired back on questions, was able to express compassion, and he did for the victim here. But he also explained that this was, that this situation should never have happened, but for the constant, stoking of antagonism against Trump, against ICE, against immigration enforcement, Democrats pushing this. Now, Vance did say, hey, don't call the driver innocent, right? I'm calling her a victim in a human sense, right? But don't call her innocent. There's a point in the program where the press conference where he said this.
What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I'm certain of is that officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat for injury or in fact, his life. What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into the guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officer was acting in self-defense. It raises an interesting point, though. Look, if people want to say that we should have a legitimate debate about, what was she really doing, right? Was she panicking when she drove into this officer, or was she actually trying to ram him? That's a reasonable conversation. What's not reasonable is for so many of you to plaster all over the media that this was an innocent woman and that the ICE agent committed murder, which is what many of you have said explicitly and some of you have said implicitly. That's what I have an objection to. The idea that this was not justified is absurd, and I think everybody knows it in their heart.
Yeah, beautifully said. By the way, I'll add one quick legal comment on this. It doesn't matter what her intentions were with the officer. What matters is what would a reasonable person in the officer's place think her intentions are. So everybody out there saying that wasn't what she wanted to do, not the standard. You can't even present that in court. You like objection, irrelevant. There will be motions in limine preventing testimony to that effect that will be granted by the judge. And if they're not granted, of course, the case will go and be thrown out on appeal. All right? Very, very important stuff. And Vance is a smart guy. This is, nobody's dummy. Biden's vice president was Kamala Harris. Madam Word Salad. And Trump's got this bulldog. It's just night and day, folks. It's night and day. Don't go anywhere. The What's Right show will continue in just a moment. Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. The What's Right show brought to you from coast to coast on the What's Right Media Network. Happy to be with you folks as always. All right. Here is, well, I mean, we'll get to Mayor Frey, Jacob Frey. This is the goofball mayor down there up there in Minneapolis. Absolute clown. What did he yesterday's press conference? He get the F out of Minnesota, Minneapolis. Get the F out. He sees some clips on social media. I don't know if this is true or if there's some broader context, but there's clips of Minnesota police department police cars in Minneapolis. Excuse me, Minneapolis, MPD. And they're outside somewhere and they're honking their horns and blasting their sirens. And I guess the allegation on social media, it's spreading like wildfire over there on Blue Sky, saying that these police cars, the police department is going out to hotels where the ICE agents are and just disrupting their sleep. And the libs are all celebrating that the Minneapolis cops, they're the best. Are you laughing or is it just me? I mean, I thought it was like 10 minutes ago that we were saying that Minnesota PD was the worst, that they killed George Floyd, St. George himself, right? They were the most racist department in America. It's miraculous. Of mere 5 years later, things are completely different. Now the left is celebrating their police department. I don't even know if it's true. I'm always suspicious of everything that I see. You know, they could have just pulled over and been arresting somebody, major police action with their sirens on. The left filming it and calling it something that it isn't. Anyway, would it be beyond Jacob Frey after the press conference I played for you yesterday for him to instruct his police to do something like that? No, I would not be surprised. Last night on MSN Now, which is formerly MSNBC, you can change the name, you don't get a better channel. Jen Psaki had Mayor Frey on. He kind of weirdly refused to answer questions about protest organizing. Now, this is critical because, again, this protest, the ICE agents were there, and this woman that got shot was there as well and taking an active role and interfering with the cops. And to what extent was this all part of a plan? Right? I mean, these people, the Democrats, love to plan mayhem. Trust me. January 6th. Anybody? Here was the exchange. Here's Jen Psaki asking a question. Frey's response is a bit odd in my view.
We just showed some images of what appear to be large-scale peaceful protests tonight. In response, we have reporters on the ground who, of course, covering them. Tell us what the scale of those are. What are you hearing about what's happening on the ground? How did they originate?
Well, look, I won't speak to the work that those that have been organizing is doing right now. I won't speak to that. What I will say is there is a broad message that is going out, and that message is pretty clear, which is don't take the bait. We'll stand up for justice. We'll stand up for what is right. And we also recognize what the Trump administration is trying to do here, because it appears that they wanted a moment like this.
No, these people are expert at projecting. It appears they wanted a moment like this. No, you wanted this moment, good sir. Daily Wire reporter Brecca Stoll wrote that she was on the ground in Minneapolis for Daily Wire this AM. One of the organizers in an AFL-CIO vest thought I was part of the group. Did everyone get the message we're moving out? I said, no, we are moving out. We hit our goal time. Goal time. This is not organic, folks. They hit their goal times, but it's all on tape, okay? What do you think goal time was? A dead American? That's what they wanted. So people make me sick. And you know what? I still maintain it's not even so much about illegal immigration at this point in Minnesota as it is about fighting against this fraud avalanche of investigation. It's getting worse. It's even worse than I said it, yesterday. It's been some developments. By the way, that's what the press conference was about. There's been some developments on this, and the Trump administration is starting to let us see inside behind, take a peek into behind the kimono here to see what they're doing. I'll explain everything when we come back. Great news for those of you that want justice. Don't go anywhere. Greetings, folks. Welcome to the What's Right show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. On X, you can find me at What's Right Sam. I just posted something about Venezuela, which is a story, a great piece in the Wall Street Journal. I just want to mention this real quick. The story, Trump team works up sweeping plan to control Venezuelan oil for years to come. Now, I didn't post a link to the article on X, but I posted a little excerpt. Today, I'm feeling charitable. I'll share it with all of you. Remember I've been saying that the Venezuela operation, obviously, the extraction of Maduro from the country over the weekend, a huge success. We lost some Cubans, but we got Maduro, we got his wife, and no Americans were harmed. Good news all around. Now, people saying, well, there's no plan. The Democrats have gone to the SCIF, to the secure area inside the Capitol to get a briefing from the administration. They then leave it, go on social media, film these stupid, idiotic videos where they go, well, I can't share what was, said, but I can tell you this administration has no plan. Enter the Wall Street Journal, which, of course, is by no means in Trump's back pocket, basically saying, hey, Trump, it seems, is working around the clock and pretty successfully to take control over Venezuela's state-run oil company. Petróleos de Venezuela S.A., or PDVSA. Okay, this is the government conglomerate that basically stole all of these refineries from Western companies. Let's be honest. And Trump, they say Trump's basically wants to lower the price of oil down to $50 a barrel. I've been saying this now since the news over the weekend broke, making the point early Saturday morning that this was a great chess move to block in Vladimir Putin and other antagonists around the world. But here's the line in it. Let me see if I can find it because I posted it. Here we go. People saying, what is this? We left in the communist dictator, the number 2 in command. Delcy Rodriguez, President Delcy Rodriguez, actually acting president Delcy Rodriguez. Says here, Venezuela's new leader on Wednesday called the raid and capture of Maduro a stain on our relationship, but she added that, and here's the quote, it's not extraordinary nor irregular having relations, for example, economic ones between the U.S. and Venezuela. Venezuela has to have relations with all countries in the hemisphere. That's a quote. Well, why is this important? Why am I giddy over this? Well, what did I tell you was going to happen? They just plucked Maduro out middle of the night, killed all of his bodyguards, left the country, then said to Delcy Rodriguez, go, hey, all right, you're the president now, whatever, we don't really give a rip. Are you going to work with us? If you don't work with us, you will meet a fate worse than Maduro did. Any questions? And my point was this was a vastly superior approach to the Bush-Cheney-Rumsfeld deal, a debacle in Iraq, where we went in, invasion, met all our objectives. Our military performed exceptionally. The, Iraqi military a little less so. And, sometime later fished Saddam Hussein out of a hole in the ground and then hung him and then put him back in the ground. And then what happened? Mayhem, right? Total and complete chaos, because the people that knew how to make things happen in the country had all been arrested, imprisoned, and possibly executed, right? Or they fled, to places around the world. Lessons learned. So Trump's saying, look, like just, hey, if you work with this, you work with this. We're not hung up on your ideology. I mean, this is optimal. And the Wall Street Journal, again, not a paper that traditionally pumps Trump up, is acknowledging this. All right, so the press conference today in Washington, J.D. Vance came out swinging. And I played the response to the police shooting. So I think the ICE shooting, because this is a powder keg situation. I think it's one of the most important stories going on nationally right now as we speak. But hear me out. The real story of the press conference was what was announced. And what was announced is that Pam Bondi and Trump have created a new assistant attorney general position inside the Department of Justice, specifically dedicated to investigating and prosecuting fraud on a nationwide scale. And what they're going to do is initially focus on Minnesota. Remember, we've been talking about these 2,000 federal agents that are on the ground. It's not just ICE. It's FBI agents and other investigation people, investigators who are looking into all of this Medicare, okay, and other entitlement fraud that's been going on. Federal tax dollars going down the drain. And that's a nice way of putting it. Remember I told you that Walz looked shaken? That he looked shaken, and that he looked as though, and it seemed as though he was certain that his time as a free person, or at least an unindicted person, was coming to an end. Yesterday, and this comes before the public announcement, so no doubt he's already caught a wind of it. Remember, Walz gave this kind of kooky press conference as well. I didn't cover it yesterday. It was just right before airtime, so I didn't get to it. But, he said he threatened to call the Minnesota National Guard on ICE officers. We're getting close to something, some Civil War elements here. Well, let me play to you. Just again, I'm playing this. He's not talking necessarily about the fraud, but he is kind of, this is all about the fraud in the background. Listen.
We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops.
There are National Guard troops. I'm going to be able to use them. I'm governor. This is a guy who has 2,000 agents crawling up his rear end right now. And I've always said, looking at Tim Walz, he might be a guy that might be into that kind of thing. But not this thing, okay? This is not good. This is terrible. He is going to be under a kind of a microscope that he never imagined. Now, those of you listening here in Nevada, I'm going to use Nevada as an example, okay? Here's the thing. Who's the top law enforcement officer in the state of Nevada? It's our attorney general. It's like that in most states, right? Yet attorney general here in our state, it's a complete and utter boob. Okay, this guy is the biggest dummy on the planet. Ron Ford. This man is so dumb he couldn't chew and fart at the same time. Chew gum and fart. He's horrible. But he's also he's a very big liberal, right? He's a Democrat guy, and he's very political in everything that he does. So my actual fundamental problem with Ron Ford, he doesn't spend any time investigating any real crime, any real wrongdoing, and there's plenty of it in Nevada. He spends all of his time doing political stuff. Like he goes and, I'll give you an example. He goes and files charges against the electors, against Mike McDonald, the head of the Republican Party here for, January 6th stuff, right? Or, this political stuff, this stupid, and it's dragging on for years, and he spent millions of dollars prosecuting this case. It's not going to go anywhere. And he doesn't look at real fraud. And Keith Ellison in Minnesota is the Ron Ford of that state. He's a political animal, and he's supposed to enforce the law, but really he just does political stuff and is looking for the next advancement in his political career. Ford here in Nevada is running for governor. And imagine for a minute that Ron Ford if we had still Governor Sisolak in office, and I don't think Sisolak, for all his faults, is nearly as corrupt as Tim Walz is in Minnesota. But, imagine that they were all helping each other out. 8 years, right? Walz was in office. He's, coming up to 8 years in the governor's mansion as the chief executive of the state, overseeing the state. 8 years, and nobody's ever really shown a light on him. In the first year, you steal a little bit. The second year, you steal a little bit more. But you're pretty careful. By the time year 5 rolls around, you don't care. You feel you're invincible. You're a Democrat. The media doesn't ask you any questions. They don't hold you accountable. You've got a Democrat, a fellow Democrat who's also got his hands in the till as your in charge of investigating you if you were, suspected of doing anything wrong. What's going to come out of this, and I'm telling you, this is the story. What's going to come out of this is they got so sloppy that the evidence of the wrongdoing, it's going to be there. I mean, it's not going to take a lot of time. And all the people that are saying that this is politically motivated will have to eat their words when they discover just how egregious the conduct was. That's my gut. And you can hear it, by the way. Vance responds to Walz. You can hear it in his voice. I'll get to that when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
By the way, speaking of Tim Walz deploying the federal guard in the state of Minnesota to protect Minnesotans from ICE, he had a very different tune when rioters spread across Minneapolis and other parts of Minnesota in the wake of George Floyd. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Here's a flashback from August of 2020, a.k.a. the summer of George, as I like to call it. And here's what we said.
I don't think the mayor knew what he was asking for. He wanted the National Guard, and what does that mean? I think to the mayor, yes, I think it's a perception. I'm certainly not questioning that. I think the mayor said, I request the National Guard. Phew, I'm out. This is great. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks.
Remember that? It rightly followed Walz throughout the 2024 campaign. All right, so Vance gets asked in the press conference where he's announcing, the White House announced a assistant attorney general to oversee this entire mess. And he's talking about that press conference. I played that clip about kind of Waltz's wild rhetoric about deploying the National Guard, countering ICE, all this stuff, right? And Vance brings it back to the fraud. Now, remember, he's doing this because I'm convinced that Team Trump has the goods on Waltz and everybody in Minnesota, that whole cabal of Democrats. I'm convinced they already have the goods. They already know. And the confidence in Vance's voice, when you compare it with Waltz's, is just night and day.
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
Hey, Robbie, by the way, is there any betting right now, active betting on whether Tim Walz serves out the balance of his term? That's the question I have, because there's some, I would not be surprised if Tim Walz ends up resigning. Well, he would presume his term would be up when? In January of next year? He's got a year left. I don't know when the governor gets sworn in there, but it's just something to look at. Here's Vance didn't pull any punches. He actually said he should resign. That was the funny part. Speaking of, here's what Vance said about that.
I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about the fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about the welfare fraud, or at the very least he looked the other way. I mean, this is not this is not like Lex Luthor, right? This is not movie villain fraud. This is the lowest IQ possible fraud. This is, we're going to take we're going to take the absence of kids and set up a daycare center where there are no children, and we're going to call our early childhood education center the Quality Leering Center. By the way, if you can't spell learning, maybe you shouldn't be in early childhood education. But people got rich off of this. We know that there were schools who either had no enrollment or at least they overstated their enrollment. Tim Walz, either it was unbelievable incompetence or he was in on the fraud. That's one of the things we're going to get to the bottom of.
Well, my money is on that he knew, because he took such an active role in silencing the whistleblowers, right? I mean, he had members of his own party that worked in state government who came forward and said, Governor, there's a problem here. We got fraud. And what did he do? He threatened the hell out of them. Said, sit down, shut up, or we're going to, make it so you never work anywhere in Minnesota again. And those threats, by the way, were quite powerful because, he was a force within the Democratic Party. Even before he was tapped as Kamala Harris's running mate, he was on the national radar. So if you're a Democrat and you're some sort of state operative, and the governor in your state who happens to have some national prominence says, hey, now, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to end you politically. I'm going to put a hex on you. That's pretty powerful stuff. If he was the good little crime fighter that he keeps saying that he is or was historically, and I mean, of course, Tim Walz, then what? Then presumably, he would have people come in and report fraud and go, oh, okay, what do we need to do here? Investigated Keith Ellison. Meanwhile, him and Keith Ellison were having, bag the money sessions with, all of the, Horn of Africa people. So yeah, that's how that went. Low IQ fraud. By the way, Kalshi, different bets. There's different bets, but Kalshi has 31% odds that he doesn't finish his term, but it's been going up. I'm noticing a trend line going up. So just think this could all end up really blowing out in the open. And what happens, by the way, what happens when the narrative doesn't reach the fever pitch that the Democrats were expecting in time for the midterms? Because remember, everything here is happening. The Democrats are trying to set up another J6, another, let's call it Russia collusion hoax. There's this thing with the ICE and all of the charades with Trump. It's all been designed to hit a crescendo before November. And what if something else happens? What if all of this actually blows up in the Democrats' faces? Because Trump is not operating by any previously foreseen or experienced playbook. He's doing this completely differently than ever before. I have some thoughts on that, so just hang tight, stay tuned. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. The What's Right Show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. You know how I know that the other side, that the Democrats think that the script is going to work, that their version of reality, of alternative reality, is going to carry water in 2024? Because they continue to double down on pushing for more funding for all of these schemes, child care, health care, homeless services, etc. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, welcome to the program. What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. If you get into an accident, don't go at it alone. You'll get taken advantage of. The insurance company knows exactly how to get you into a position where you end up losing money. And it's a win for them, right? Every adjuster that saves $1 for their insurance company is bonused on it. It's how it works. They act all nice. Oh, yes, Bob, we're going to take care of you. Of course. Yeah, no problem. And by the end of it, you discover you're thousands of dollars in the hole. Don't do that. Call Sam and Ash Injury Law today. It's a quick, easy phone call. Get help. Doesn't cost you anything out of your pocket. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. That's the number you call. You talk to Ian. You talk to Michael. Talk to Oscar. Get you on board, and off we go. It's easy. Straightforward. 800-304-2000. Sam and Ash Injury Law. samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. All right. Well, Mamdani held a press conference today, the New York mayor, and he wants to expand child care services. Now, yeah, I mean, anybody with a brain goes, well, isn't this tone deaf? And the answer is, well, yes, but they're sticking to the script. We need more entitlements. We need more public benefits. We need more money to skim from in order to maintain our political viability, or so these people think. This is what he said in the press conference. It's just wild stuff to me.
Not only when we make pre-K truly universal, but expand this care to include all 2- and 3-year-olds across the city. As the governor said, we will deliver to care by working in partnership with child care providers, especially home-based providers.
More home-based providers. All, the people cheering behind him are all from Somalia. They're excited. They're going to end up. No, they're not. But they might as well be. This is the thing. All the fraudsters are getting excited. All they have to do is keep paying off Democrats, and they'll keep getting more money that they can skim from and abuse and take for themselves. And as long as they keep the Democrats taken care of financially, the gravy train will continue, or so they think. Now, yesterday on the program, I mentioned that Spencer Pratt was running for mayor, announced his run for mayor of L.A. Pratt is a reality TV guy, but for the last year, remember, we're a year past now from the Palisades fires in LA that ravaged the community. Mayor Bass, remember how she went to a funeral in Africa to represent the Biden administration? I guess had to come home early, and she decided to still go on the trip, even though gusts were reported and there were some fires already burning. And she's like, you guys got this, no problem. Absolute. Yeah, she was warned. I mean, I know, Robbie, we found out later that there was a fire that had been sort of contained, not quite put out. And the fire department said, no, the crew on the scene said, we should probably stay here and monitor this because we have these winds. And they were sent home by the lesbian fire chief herself. This is the whole city. Anyway, Pratt has been at the forefront of fighting against well, not just the ineptitude of the city of Los Angeles, but against the corruption at the state level. You know, they had a fire aid fundraiser, a concert. Do you know about this? Remember this? I think they raised a lot of money. It was a staggering amount of money. $100 million, I think, is the number. And of it, they found very little ended up going to anything of any importance. Millions and millions went to various political causes. Half of it disappeared entirely. Pratt has been successful at highlighting, has become a real superstar of the effort fighting Gavin Newsom. So now he wants to run for mayor. And what I like about this, and why I think this is important even for the midterms, for at a national level, highlighting, because this is going to be a big race. He has racked up a lot of endorsements. Steve Hilton, Rick Grinnell, among many others who have come out to endorse Spencer Pratt. And the crux of the case is going to be the thievery that exists in these unchecked blue states, where you've got a mayor, where you've got a governor, where you've got an attorney general, all Democrats, all with their hand in the till. This is Gavin Newsom's worst nightmare. But beyond that, right, even though Pratt's not challenging Newsom, but he's going to be talking more about Newsom than he will about Bass. Trust me on this. And, here are the numbers, okay? So 550 fire aid, okay? $550,000 in donations went to organizations involved in political advocacy. $250,000 was directed toward programs benefiting undocumented immigrants. $100,000 in fire aid donations was paid to podcasters. $500,000 plus was used to cover salaries, bonuses, and consultant fees. Many worthy nonprofits apparently received some funds, but it was a fraction of the total that went in. It's scandalous, all of it, from top to bottom. And I think what Democrats wanted was, by the time the midterms came along, the story was going to be ICE, the story was going to be Trump, the story was going to be the Gestapo that is the Trump administration, right? Kind of putting that in quotes. And it's getting out of hand. And it's getting out of hand because all of a sudden this immense fraud is coming to light. And it started, remember, in December, $1 billion in Minnesota. And I think by the time we write the story, it's going to be hundreds of billions of dollars. What started as a little crack, $1 billion is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but started like a little problem in a state that most people have never been to, is going to start expanding, and it ended up becoming an enormous just schism that may end up just taking down with it the modern Democratic Party. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it could very well happen. And this is why they keep fighting against this, why they want, and they're going to amp up their rhetoric about ICE because it's all they've got. They're going to keep encouraging their people to go hit, ICE enforcement officers and DHS agents. They're going to get into assaults. They're going to want the videos of those people getting taken down. And that makes it breaks my heart, right? But you've got to understand where it's coming from. It's a fight for, fight for political survival. It's a fight to stay out of prison for some of these people. They're going to pull out all the stops. And it doesn't just implicate the guy at the top. In fact, it implicates more the people that are, make up the machine, because there's so many. This is a racketeering case at its core. And so many people are involved in this, so they're all going to work really, really hard to stop it and to protect themselves. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the San Francisco reparations thing too. Yeah, I mean, remember, we were off. We weren't on air, but not to come back to this in the past, but just before Christmas, the San Francisco mayor snuck in his signature on a reparations bill. So qualified black residents of San Francisco are each going to get $5 million. Talk about $1 billion. San Francisco, the city of San Francisco, has a $1 billion deficit right now. They're going to hand out $5 million per resident because I don't know why. Because hashtag woke. This stuff, and I can just see the Republican ads now. I can see the Republican ads. They're going to have these shrill women yelling about, ICE being fascists, and they're going to have woke mayors, yelling about reparations. They have criminals running amok. You go say, hey, listen, which one do you want? You want Trump's America, or you want to go back to Biden and beyond? Think we're starting to see the makings of a coherent Republican argument for why to vote Republican in November. I guess that's what I'm getting at. And that's encouraging. Now, will the Republicans nationally be smart enough to seize the moment? We will see about that. I'm hoping, yes. I'm hoping Trump is involved. I'm hoping the whole machine comes out to rescue the congressional majority. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Back in a moment. Yeah, I think people don't realize that the Spencer Pratt candidacy for LA mayor is going to have national implications for the November election. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. LA is like Minnesota. LA is like the federal government under Joe Biden. LA is, and by the way, Pratt calls it, he uses the word disinfecting in his rally yesterday. That's right. He had a rally. It was great. Here's a snippet of it. Here's what he said.
Let me be clear. This just isn't a campaign. This is a mission. And we are going to expose the system. We are going into every dark corner of LA politics and disinfecting this city with our light. And when we are done, LA is going to be camera ready again.
I don't know. I think disinfectant is not what these people want. In the shadows, they're able to get away with just so much. And let's go back to, I keep saying this over and over again. It's a theme of mine. It's my favorite thing because it always comes back to be, and it's always true. The Democrats, because they're not used to having a media that spars with them, because they're not used to getting investigated by, attorneys general the way typically Republicans get investigated, because they're not used to the scrutiny. Their killer instincts, their reflexes aren't as good. Occasionally you get a Democrat who is good, okay? Like Bill Clinton was good, and you could have thrown the most aggressive media at Bill Clinton and he'd hold up. Obama, second best. But Karen Bass, not good. And, you know, it's going to be about the fires. It's going to be about the mismanagement. It's going to be about the waste. So Karen Bass can't talk about Trump. Karen Bass is going to have to answer questions about the fires. And Tuesday, she had an interview with Josh Haskell, a local ABC 7 reporter, the one-year anniversary since the LA fires. And she just goes back to blame the weather. This is one of those things that's just not going to work for Democrats. I think it's going to have implications in the midterms. It's going to be so important because they keep saying stupid stuff like this.
You have people who continue to tell me every single time I'm here, this should have never happened. Should this have ever happened?
Of course it should have never happened, but I do think that's something that we're all coming to grips with in our world, but certainly within our city. Weather events that we would have never thought would have taken place. What do Angelenos know about hurricanes? Hurricane strength winds. And so it's a reckoning for all of us.
If you believe that your city burned down because of climate change, I mean, keep voting for this. I'm not saying Spencer Pratt is going to win. Might have a chance. He might have a chance. But it's going to be a race that everybody's going to follow, and everything that comes out of it ain't going to be good for the Democratic Party. I'm going to tell you that. Because Bass is part of the rot. She's part of the rot. And she thinks she's just going to answer these questions by saying, it's the weather, it's climate change, it's, I didn't know. Second part of this interview, she blames misinformation on the anger. Yeah, you're angry because you don't know anything.
There are people who have preyed upon people's grief, who are financially benefiting from people's grief. And to deliberately put out misinformation like nobody's rebuilding, permits aren't being given, there are challenges, absolutely, but there is progress being made.
There's a rally being held tomorrow called They Let Us Burn.
Right.
Is that how people should be commemorating this one-year anniversary?
Well, I don't think so. Again, I think that there are people that are profiting off of this. And that is what I find very despicable. Intentionally putting out misinformation, intentionally profiting from social media, book deals, etc.
So he's calling her. This is a softball interview, right? This is what the Democrats get. Just wait till there starts to be some scrutiny. I know. Well, I'll tell you this. Vance brought it all back because last night on Fox, talking to Jesse Waters, Vance, he basically says this coming nomination fight. So beyond this year, we have the midterms. What comes after? It's all going to come to a beautiful crescendo as the Democrats work on crowning their next nominee and hopefully, they hope, their next president. And they're working on the script now. But who's the front runner? And yeah, Vance is a funny guy. Waters says, well, he says that two candidates are on a so-called collision course. That's what Jesse says. Here's the exchange.
Evan and Kamala are on a collision course.
Yes.
Who's going to win?
The dumbest candidate will probably win. That's my guess with the Democratic Party. I mean, look, the Democrats have a couple of big issues, and one is that they lean so far into wokeism that they can't see the obviousness of the fact, which is that Kamala Harris is not qualified to be president of the United States. That's why she got the vice presidential nomination. That's why she got the presidential nomination. This is who Kamala Harris is. Now, the flip side is I think you have a unbelievably corrupt and incompetent governor in Gavin Newsom. The fact that those are the two front runners just suggests how deeply deranged the Democrat Party is. Let them fight it out. We'll figure it out.
May the dumbest candidate win.
May the dumbest candidate win.
And this is coming from Vance, who is, all but a shoo-in. I think the likelihood of him becoming, as of now, right, with all facts considered, becoming the Republican nominee in 28 are really high. Marco Rubio, by the way, has come out and said if J.D. Vance runs, he will not run. He will not seek the nomination. Yeah, I know that could change. Of course, it could change. But I don't think it will. And you could see likely, I could see a Vance Rubio ticket. And I don't. How do the Democrats beat that? I mean, who has? I have to sit here and shift in my chair and really, I'd have to really concentrate to see what Democrat could come out with any amount of gravitas to match that. You see that Steny Hoyer announced his retirement today. And people coming out, a lot of Republicans coming out. McCarthy came out. Kevin came out with a thing about what a gentleman and a trusted person in Congress in the opposition, Steny Hoyer was. Long time. I mean, the old guard Democrats are quitting. They're out. I'm not a Steny Hoyer fan, but I mean, the guy had some class. Not a stupid guy. The new people, they're all lobotomized fools. I mean, he's right. They made the dumbest candidate win, and it'll be good for us. All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Focus on the midterms first. All right, the What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. We'll see you after this.